Hi, I'm Tommy.
And I'm Ads.
And today we are red whining about Thor Ragnarok.
The 100th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I literally have stopped counting.
There must be more Marvel films now than like James Bond films. Or getting on that way, surely.
Getting on that way, yeah.
So, Thor Ragnarok.
The long awaited.
Been much amped up.
Yeah.
What did you think of Thor Ragnarok?
I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah, it's good fun, wasn't it?
Really, really liked it. I really liked the trailer. And I really like Taika Waititi's films anyway, or what I've seen.
Yeah.
Hunt for the Wilder People and What We Do in the Shadows. I actually really liked Thor 1 more than most. I actually think Thor 2 is the worst Marvel film, Marvel Cinematic Universe film so far. So
I don't think you won't get a lot of argument from a lot of people on that front, I don't think. I think even Marvel know that it was a bit of a stinker. But yeah, Thor 1, I agree with you, because it set its own tone and did quite a good job of setting up what is a lot of information really well, and without also throwing the baby out with the bathwater in terms of like the whole Marvel stuff as a whole.
Yeah, and I like the fact that there was no holds barred in terms of trying to over-explain that, we're just a more advanced form of science.
Yeah.
There was one throwaway line conceding that, but ultimately it was operatic. It was Kenneth Branagh directing Thor with a big hammer. But my favourite thing about that first Thor film was the fish out of water comedy stuff from Chris Hemsworth, which we saw a tiny amount of. And this film has basically cemented Chris Hemsworth as one of the best comedy actors working today.
I'm really pleased that they have finally kind of figured out what to do with him, I guess. Because there was, like you said, there was that in the first one. The second one painted this like really overly dark, like seriousness to it. It's not like a total character change, but it seems like they've just nudged him in a post like Guardians of the Galaxy world, just nudged him into being kind of comedy buffoon man. Like, his character is not really very smart at any point in this film.
No, but what I like is he's really likable in an unusual way for such a good-looking god.
Yeah.
Like, how do you make him so relatable? And
luckily, in the same way that Chris Pratt kind of makes that work, you know?
Yeah, and I think the key to it is that Thor in this, they really play up on that he feels left out from the gang. There's lots of like, we'll form a team like the old days. Like, he knows that they're probably all getting on perfectly well without him, and he's like, but I'm Thor, I'm a god, and he knows he's not one of the cool kids. The cool kids being Tony Stark and Captain America, and he knows he's just weird figure of fun.
That's why I'm really glad this film is so much fun and gives him so much to do, because in the previous like multi ensemble ones, he doesn't have much beyond a couple of like throwaway lines, and even they are comedic then, so like I say, it's not a massive shift in character, but he's never really been allowed to be the star of the show next to like a Downey Jr. and even Chris Evans's like Captain America takes more of a centre stage than he ever has. So it's really like good on him for getting like a film that does him like that paints him in such a good light and lets him really shine.
Yeah, and another thing I really like is how there's this accepted formula of how Marvel films work, and it's a formula that is really enjoyable, and that's why they can keep knocking these films out, because it works. They just know exactly what buttons to press to make you go, okay, that was the same as the last 10, but their formula is so well honed that it's still really enjoyable. And that kind of shifted slightly with Ant-Man, where it felt like, that was kind of interesting because they've made it a bit more of a comedy. Yeah. And then again, with the first Guardians film, it was very much like, oh wow, they've kind of done a comedy, which is an interesting new spin on the Marvel formula.
And something that's a bit auteur as well, like almost like James Gunn with those films, it feels like it's more of a passion project than just, like you say, push the right buttons to get the right product at the end.
Sure. But this really has made me realise how much more the Guardians of the Galaxy films and Ant-Man were run-of-the-mill Marvel films, because this is properly a comedy film.
It's a comedy film.
That is the genre. It's a comedy film about a superhero god.
It's almost like Monty Python-esque in places. And I was watching it thinking, only Marvel could now do that, because they've done so many films where even like the worst one is still quite an okay, good fun film to watch. That's their very worst output. That they've afforded themselves this luxury of then going into almost full on like meta parody of themselves and get away with it. And not only get away with it, but hey, this is so much fun. It's like brilliant.
Yeah. They've really got to that point that the Marvel comics are, where you can just have a run that is different. You could just buy a series of Thor comics that are a bit more comedic than the run before, and why not? And why not play around with that tone? And I think that's something that, I'm getting increasingly frustrated with what DC are doing with Batman, in terms of there's so many different ways you can take that character. That's why he's lasted 70 years. Yeah. And instead they're just trying to go, what people like is angry and dark, and it's not necessarily the only way to go. I'm not necessarily saying do another Joel Schumacher film, but this is just showing that there's so many different ways of approaching comic characters tonally.
But also, we've seen, we haven't seen Justice League yet, but we've seen enough trailers of it to know that DC are aware that people like the sort of comedy stuff, so they've started to weave that in. But then they haven't earned it.
You look at something like Suicide Squad, which ended up seeming like such a cynical chasing of Guardians of the Galaxy tone.
Yeah.
Before the internet all call me a Marvel fanboy. In terms of comics, I'm a DC guy, always have been. And it frustrates me, and I love Batman. And I really enjoyed Wonder Woman, but not on the level that I enjoyed Thor. Or not on the level I enjoyed, if I think of the last 3 Marvel films, Thor, Spider-Man, and Guardians of the Galaxy, they're 3 of the most fun blockbusters in the last, decade.
Yeah. Well, there's a difference between, just box checking and taking just a property and going, do what you want with this. Waititi's obviously done brilliant little comedies. Take it in that direction. Off you go. Go and have fun. And that's totally what they've done.
The comedy as well, it really feels like a Waititi film. And obviously it's got cast elements from his previous films, and Taika himself shows up in... I can't remember the last time I laughed that much in the cinema, was Korg's first scene.
Sounds like you had a pretty special and intimate relationship with this hammer, and that losing it was almost comparable to losing a loved one.
In
Yeah.
Thor.
But that character doesn't even get old throughout the entire film.
No.
You think that could so easily be like a one-off joke or a tiring character that veers on like Jar Jar Binks territory, but every line is so well delivered and so well written that it's just brilliant.
Yeah, it's brilliantly well judged, and like the scene that he is in himself in Hunt for the Wilder People, where he's the priest, is just amazingly funny as well.
If you're a human being sitting in the cinema watching like Thor Ragnarok and you're not having the time of your life, then you're basically broken. When Immigrant Song comes on, it's just style and fun. You're just smiling because it just taps into your human need for fun things.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's one of the things that comic book films can provide really well. And I don't necessarily think it's the only thing they can. I mean, I love the Dark Knight as much as everyone else, possibly more than everyone else. What's really great is the audience that I saw it with, they still all really seem to be enjoying it. People were consistently laughing at the jokes. It wasn't like, why are they trying to turn this into a quirky art house comedy? I think this is going to appeal to mainstream cinema fans because the action is fun, but the comedy is still broad. It's not like they've got Armando Iannucci to do a superhero film. It's still a bold, colourful, easily understandable comedy.
They have always done jokes, and that's kind of the Marvel thing, is a sort of serious romp but with funny bits, and that was seen as being the formula. But this really brave push into total comedy is a really excellent way of getting over superhero fatigue as well, because they seem to have really found a feat in it since Guardians, or that at least proved that it can work. I really loved Civil War, but I want to see more Thor stuff, more than I want to see Infinity War.
The idea of seeing Thor and the Hulk clash heads with the Guardians of the Galaxy is much more exciting now than going, we're revisiting Tony Stark. I would say the problem is that comedy is much harder to do. Marvel have proven that you can churn out those fun superhero films. You can crap out kind of okay superhero films unless you're Warner Brothers and DC.
Yeah.
Whereas good comedy is a really difficult thing to do. They can only sustain films like Thor Ragnarok by getting the best comedy talent involved.
I mean, the good news is I don't think that studio is going to struggle now to pull in whoever the hell they want for any project they want, because everything keeps getting better for them. So let's jump onto the contrarian train. Is there anything about Thor Ragnarok that didn't sit right with you, or you didn't like so much?
I got a bit bored whenever they were trying to do the stuff that they felt you needed to care about, which basically meant when they were on Planet Hulk, when they, which was basically looked like it was from Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah.
And I loved every minute on that
Junkyard
planet.
City, yeah.
Yeah, I loved every minute on that planet, and every time they cut back to remind you that bad, serious things are happening on Asgard, it's like, don't really care.
Yeah.
What I really wanted was to watch Thor and the Hulk on that planet for 20 minutes every Saturday morning.
The same, you and I. Just a couple of hot-headed fools.
Yeah, same. Hulk like fire, Thor like water.
Well, kind of both like fire.
But Hulk like raging fire, Thor like smoldering fire.
Just in that room.
Yeah.
Just as like the odd couple.
Yeah. But that's what that was what it was tapping into for me, was like Saturday morning cartoon, like funny adventure, the adventures of Bruce Banner and Thor, you know, going around and having capers, and that's very much what it felt like. And that was tonally a little bit of odds when they were cutting back to Asgard. I feel really horrible saying it because I thought he was good in it, and I really love him and want him to be in more things, but the whole arc of Carl Urban's character I'd have probably left on the cutting room floor.
So like you said, I love Carl Urban, he's great and everything, but he was only really there for Cate Blanchett's character to explain plot to.
Yeah. To have someone to talk to or do a plot, because there was no plot there.
Because it was a little bit like when there was, we've got to get everyone off the thing. It was a bit like Age of Ultron, Sokovia kind of nonsense again.
Yeah.
But you need some sort of peril, obviously, to get that going. But actually, as a villain, she was one of the better ones they've had for a while, because obviously that is one of the criticisms levelled at Marvel, is kind of inconsequential villains. And I'm not like a big comic book reader, but I know that she is instrumental. She's coming back because she's instrumental to like the Infinity War stuff. And I thought it was good to see someone who actually was quite matched and had a point and had a purpose and wasn't just a throwaway.
No, I agree with that. And she was like having loads of fun doing that. Also, I felt like this film did a really good job of reinvigorating why I loved Loki so much in the past, where I thought I was getting bored with Loki, but taking it away from he's the guy that wants to take over Earth, and they make some gags at that expense.
Yeah. Just
pulling it back to, they're brothers, and Loki's just sort of been pissing about on Asgard for ages, just enjoying life. And all the get help recurring gag, all that stuff. It's like, they are brothers and they've got a proper funny sibling rivalry. It made me kind of go, oh, there's more interest in Loki yet.
But again, it's so earned. The cinema erupted when there was that bit when Hulk smashed Thor about, and Loki was or even just Loki looking nervously at Hulk, but then that happened. He went, "That's how that feels," and everyone was, "Hey!" Because it was a great callback to something that happened in 2008. You couldn't just think those guys in the DC seats going, "Oh, how do we get that?" Or maybe give everyone their own film for a start. And it's the kind of thing that I feel like Zack Snyder kind of wishes he could do better.
There were scenes in cause the thing is with Zack Snyder, people say, "Oh, but he does great visuals." I mean, Taika Waititi, he's the guy that did Hunt for the Wilder People. Yeah. And he's just throwing out stuff that looks better than anything.
And it's I'm fighting a swarm of people, and then there's a great soundtrack to it, and it's slow motion. It is that's what I was sitting there thinking, this is Zack Snyder territory, but it's wrapped up in something so much better. And with fun rather than with a grimace and a poker face look on your face.
Imagine if that slow motion guy thrusting a sword through someone's chest was a character we cared about.
Yeah, and it's it's not Led Zeppelin, it's Simon and Garfunkel. But so Thor Ragnarok is really, really good.
Big thumbs up.
You should go and watch Thor Ragnarok.
Get it in your eyes
and smile.